Okay, this is page 199. Again, all you're doing with these problems is you're circling, for example, 1A, if you want 2, 3, or 4 dinner guests to share 1/2, 1/3, 2/3, or 3/4 of a pan of cornbread. Write what fraction of the pan of cornbread did each guest get? Each guest got, and fill in the blank. So this is just like page 199. Now, not sure why I'm on 201. Let's see if I have, nope. And so they're all just more of the same problem, so I apologize, 200 isn't there. 201 is more of the do-it-yourself word problems, and then on number 2, you're writing your own story problem to match one of those expressions. So you're going to choose either 1/2 divided by 2, 1/2 divided by 6, 1/3 divided by 4, or 1/8 divided by 4. And you're going to write a story problem, show your work, and give us the quotient. So the answer to my problem is, okay, and that's all of, I have 201 twice, so just ignore 201. One time. And then skills review number 5. I believe this is the last one for number 1. I'm not doing an example. I just want to remind you that you need to do something special when you're adding or subtracting decimals. Number 2, subtracting is mixed numbers. So if you have 7 and 2/3 minus 5 and 3/4, unlike addition, we can't go ahead and subtract 7 minus 3. We have to find an equivalent fraction for 2/3 and 3/4, and then do our subtraction in case I need to borrow 1/2 from the 7. So I feel like I should do a quick example, although my time is running out here. So let's say that I have 5 and 2/3, and I am going to subtract 2, and let me think about this for a second. Let's say I'm going to subtract 2 and 5/12. So I'm not going to go ahead and say 5 minus 2 because I may need to borrow a whole. Instead, I'm going to look for the common denominator between 3 and 12, 3, 6, 9, 12. Oh, once I get to 12, I know that that's going to be my common denominator. I don't have to change 2 and 5/12 because it already has 12 as a denominator. But I am going to have to take 2/3. I'm going to take that fraction, multiply it by a fraction to get an equal fraction with a denominator of 12. 4, 4, 8/12. So I know that 2/3 and 8/12 are equal to each other. So I'm going to come over here and just put 5 and 8/12. When I subtract, I am going to get 3 and 3/12. But let's change this up a little bit. So let's say that this, instead of being 5 and 2/3, is now 5 and 1/3. So I need to take this fraction, multiply it by a fraction to get an equal fraction with a denominator of 12. Well, it's still going to be 4, right? 3 times 4 is 12. But now 1 times 4 is equal to, sorry guys, I keep forgetting I have to do this, is equal to 4. And I put that. Okay. So now it will be 5 and 4/12. And I need to take away 3 and 5/12. Well, if I have 4/12, I can't take away 5/12 from that. So I'm going to have to borrow. So I'm going to borrow, and I'm going to cross the 5 out because it's going to lose a whole. And the whole changes with fraction problems depending on your denominator. If my denominator is 12, my whole is 12/12, correct? So I'm going to borrow one whole, but it is actually going to be in 12, so it's going to be 12/12. That's a whole. I'm going to add that to my 4/12 that was still there. So now this becomes 4 and 16/12. I'm going to draw an arrow and come over here. 4 and 16/12. And I am going to subtract 3 and 3/12. Or sorry, I'm going to subtract 2 and 5/12. 2 and 5/12. Now I can do that, and 16 minus 5 is 11. 12 stays the denominator, and now it's 4 minus 2, which is 2. So my final difference is going to be 2 and 11/12. Okay. Now, wish I could make my eraser bigger. Now we're going to look at number 3, and we've already done an example like that in the previous recording, so go back and look. I don't remember, I think it's in 2. Go back and look and see how that model was done. Now, for number 4, you're doing it the same way as you did number 2, except you could go ahead and add the whole numbers, and then any wholes you get, add on to that. Since we are adding, we can do that. You cannot do it with subtracting. And number 5 is just more of a word problem that will fit 1/2 divided by 3. And again, there are 2 types. We are dividing a fraction by a whole number. We can be sharing or we can be grouping. And we've discussed that, so hopefully that problem will make sense to you. And I believe that that is it. So I will be putting on new lessons after this week. I cannot come back into the school, so you may not be able to see me writing on it. You may not be able to see me writing and going through problems, but I will definitely talk through problems and do the best I can to make sure that you're understanding what I said. I also plan on having some Google Meets, so I will be putting a video on Schoology of how to go about getting to Google Meets so that we can actually video conference together. That's all. I miss you guys, and hopefully I'll be able to see you in 3 weeks.